All right, what's going on, everybody? Chris Franks with TexasWest Capital. I've got Tillman and Andrew from Arch Public sitting in the wings, ready to come on here and rock y'all's world today, as always, talking about Bitcoin. Sometimes we say things you like, sometimes we don't, but at the end of the day, it's always what we believe is in your best interest to hear rather than maybe what you want to hear. So today, lots of stuff going on, guys. Before we get going here, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up, hit the like, hit the follow, hit the subscribe. Follow these guys at Andrew there at AP_abacus and Tillman at TexasOL61, both there on X. You can find their information here under the video, especially if you're on YouTube here. And yeah, you leave a comment, share the link, guys. Let's get this out there to do all that. But lots of stuff going on. Trump's in as president. He's just at a flurry signing executive orders here, and then people freaking out. He ended up he did pardon Ross Ulbricht, but people are freaking out because he hasn't signed the executive orders, anything having to do with crypto just yet. So we're going to talk about that today. But let me go over and bring the guys up here. There's Andrew. There's Tillman. Oh my gosh, Andrew! I didn't even notice prior to the show that you got a real microphone.
Yeah, I do. How about that?
Said?
What's that?
Is that because of what Tillman said last time?
Yeah, he bullied me into it. Yeah, that's what happened.
Make bullying great again, right?
That's right.
Listen, it's constructive criticism. I want what's best for you guys. Like, just you can't keep the truth to yourself. It does sound a lot better, Andrew, but you still need the rug in there. So yeah, we'll still keep harping on you about that.
Yeah,
I like how it changes colors. It's very high tech there.
Huh. He's doing it for the show, He's color into the show here. Actually, the color's looking a lot like what you're wearing with the green, and then what you have with the blue and purple behind you there, Tillman.
Well, that's my computer screen. Yeah, I don't have any control over that. I guess I do, but I don't know how to do it on PCs. I'm a Mac guy.
Well, anyway, great to have you guys here. So yeah, like I was saying at the beginning here, absolutely crazy begin to the week. I mean, let's not please talk about the weather here. I know y'all are used to, the snow and the crazy weather, but this is Houston, Texas. Okay, so I'm going to talk about Galveston on the freaking beach, 4 inches or whatever. And then you went over to Louisiana, which had, 7.5, 8 inches in New Orleans?
Yeah, Florida got 10 inches on the beach in some places. It's unprecedented.
Florida, yeah, Destin, Pensacola, 7.5, 10 inches. I mean, oh my God.
It's at least a once in a lifetime storm, if not like a once in 10 lifetime storm. I've never seen it.
It's so crazy. I'm just glad I didn't have to drive anywhere. There's ice all over the roads here in Houston because they don't know what to do.
Yeah, I saw a tweet yesterday that said, "Look, Donald Trump solved global warming day one."
Oh my God,
that was pretty clever. Yeah, it's been. We knew that this week was going to be jam packed, but we didn't have any idea how jam packed. And it just goes to show you, Trump can move at lightning speed across a multitude of fronts. And that's going to be really hard to keep up with, hard to pigeonhole, as we've seen with like the traditional media and how they try to paint it one way, and he's 5 steps ahead. And it's going to be interesting to see all the developments that he implements in the first 90 days for sure, because this is his last shot to make change, and I think a lot of people are behind him this time to help him make change on pretty much every front that can be changed. So yeah, it's unprecedented. I think the thing that caught me off guard the most was the Trump token and then the Melania token. That sent the crypto Twitter spaces into a tailspin. It was pretty funny and entertaining to watch.
Oh man, and as with all, there's a deep pullback after that ridiculous run up, and people are like, oh, they're rugging, and I'm like, what do you? It doesn't make any sense. That thing just shot up like how much? 280,000% in like 24 hours or something. It was stupid.
Well, listen, if anything, they're doing the opposite of run up, and I can actually prove it to you. I've taken screenshots of the price and the pricing page essentially as it's gone up. And the top 10 holders went from 86% holdings at launch. They're at 91 and change now. So if anything,
You
they're
mean they bought
buying
more?
they're buying more. So I think they're not going to rug. They're accumulating because they want to control the market, and they know that if they keep the float at 200 million for periods of time, that there's enough demand to overwhelm the supply and to drive the price up. And as well as I do, market valuations and capitalizations in the crypto space mean nothing. There are there's what's the market cap of Dogecoin,
Yeah.
and what's behind it. And honestly, I think the biggest take here, innovation's messy, right? We all know that. Like if you invent something, ask Ross how messy it gets. If you're the first to market and you invent something that is groundbreaking, typically the first people that will be attracted to it are nefarious actors. No
Yeah.
different than my mom used to tell me every time I went to a new school, don't make friends with the kids who try to make friends with you on day one. They're typically not the right crowd. And so, I think we're seeing some of the potential negatives of a meme coin frenzy, but the positives to me weigh the negatives. If you think about where we are now, where the majority of pump and dump coins are literally kids in their 15-year-old kids in their basement coming up with funny names with a cartoon character. At least now there's some accountability to an actual brand with an actual person behind it. It will eliminate more rug pulls than it being an anonymous coin or a cartoon coin. And if you look at some of the bigger brands that could actually pull it off and do it right, it may be an interesting combination of what we saw with the NFT market, where there's some real world value. There's an ecosystem where in which you could spend those coins in a different or a multiplied manner than what the US dollar purchasing power in that environment would give you. And so there could be some really interesting things that shake out of it. I just am shocked that with all that he's got on his plate and everything that he's got going for him, that he was tweeting at 9 p.m. About his new Trump coin. I think Melania coin was a big mistake. I think he should have not kept. He diluted his own value is the point. Kept all that value centralized. And if we saw a consolidation from all the other coins, the meme coins, into Trump coin, great. It's actually a leg up on our reputation as a legitimate marketplace. People don't have to look at fart coin being in the top
Yeah.
25 anymore.
So, Andrew, do you agree with Tillman then that you should sell all your Bitcoin and go all in on Trump coin? I think that's what I understood him saying.
It's a couple things. The weather in meme coins, as it relates to this podcast, are irrelevant, given that Larry Fink just told us that Bitcoin could go to 700,000 about 45 minutes ago.
Yeah.
He's in Davos, and his Bitcoin evangelism continues, and it seems to no end. It's just remarkable to see a guy like that be in with, he's waist deep at this point into it. Not only did he say that, Bitcoin is an uncorrelated asset, and if you have any concerns whatsoever about your country's debt issues, your currency, whatever it happens to be, any sort of catastrophic anything, you should own a sizable portion of it. There's now the conversations that he says that they're having with clients are 2 to 5% allocations. And then on top of that, he says, listen, tokenizing real world assets, if we could do that tomorrow, it would radically change access to the markets for the everyday man. So this guy is as all in on the world of digital assets and Bitcoin in particular as has ever been. And again, He's somebody that sways markets, sways regulators, sways laws, sways all things that have to do with capital and the movement of capital from one place to another. So it's a remarkable moment. And so, whether it's meme coins or whatever it happens to be, I watched over the weekend. It's not a surprise to me at all that the whole Trump meme coin has moved to the background. Nobody's really talking about it anymore 3 days later, because we've moved on to other things. I'm not surprised at all that crypto Twitter has the attention span of a fly. And so we immediately moved on to I'm upset about the fact that Ross hasn't been pardoned within the first 16 minutes of the administration. And then, of course, he was given a full pardon 24 to 48 hours into the administration. And probably another 12 hours from now, it will start to kick up again. We're going to start complaining that the Bitcoin Strategic Reserve hasn't been announced and implemented already.
Yeah.
And so, but again, all of that is noise associated with the reality that is, you have the biggest asset manager on the planet saying, not only should you buy Bitcoin if you have any concerns about basically anything on the globe, you should buy Bitcoin. And then on top of that, I think that Bitcoin's going to $500,000, $600,000, $700,000. Literally, the guy's making price predictions. Yeah. I mean, he sounds like an anonymous account on Twitter looking for clout. Okay, so just if you wanted a reason to buy Bitcoin and own more of it, there you go. There it is in red lights. Yeah.
Well, I think there's something that's pretty telling about Larry Fink's behavior as well, in the fact that he's not kowtowing to politics. He's not even been vocal or been present at any of, and all the other CEOs of every, publicly traded company have basically bought time with Trump. And it tells me what I've known for a really long time and what Andrew's reemphasizing right now, which is Bitcoin doesn't need anybody's help. It didn't need Larry Fink before Larry Fink got involved. Now we want Larry Fink on the team. He's taking it into another subset of the populace of the world that has the concentration of wealth attached to him. So we definitely want his involvement, but you can't stop it. Even if Larry Fink came out tomorrow and said, this is the dog coin of all dog coins, I'm never going to talk about BTC again, you still wouldn't stop it. That's the beauty of it. That's literally the architecture behind it. And that's what, you can get very easly distracted with the shiny objects in the room, but Andrew's right. It's unstoppable, and as long as time continues and more people hear about it, there's going to be upside to be garnered from it. And so I couldn't agree more. I just wish you hadn't jumped into all the serious stuff so quickly. I mean, there's some funny stuff going on. We could at least make fun of it for a little bit, but
well, go ahead and bring it in. Let us know.
Listen, I will say this, that the funny thing to me is just crypto Twitter and how crazy we get about our agendas. And what I see Trump doing is being loyal to the people that were loyal to him and doing it in that priority and that order. And so when you're talking about the people who have been in jail from the January 6th deal, a lot of people were pissed that Ross didn't come first. He's been in jail longer, blah, blah, blah. Well, I think Trump is making a very clear statement about, if you were there for me when I needed you, when I was under the lawfare, and then I'm going to be there for you when you need me. And I think he's prioritizing those things, including the crypto launch, based upon his own personal interests and really what his view of the world and how he wants to write the impact that he's seen on his life and those people around him. And so even the meme coins, I guess we should have known it would have had to happen before the inauguration, and I'm shocked somebody didn't pick up on that and predict it, but it definitely did. And think about what the purpose of that is. it's as centralized of an effort as I've ever seen, and it's to help the people that I think were in his mind persecuted for being close to him. And so that's it's admirable as a if you look at loyalty as something that is valuable in a character, but it is also somewhat dangerous. Like loyalty above truth is a dangerous concept that
Yeah.
has to be in check. And I don't know all the things that he's done to part who he's pardoned, but if you compare it to the last guy's pardons, I think we're well within the lanes if you think about it like that.
Yeah. And so here's the thing with Ross being pardoned. I saw that polymarket odds for the strategic Bitcoin reserves is like popped up even higher now, and it makes sense, right? I mean,
higher than 65. Last time I saw it, it was at 65.
Yeah. And
Okay.
so I think it makes sense, right? Because do you really do a Bitcoin strategic reserve with the Bitcoins that you basically stole from Ross, right? After sticking him in prison for 10 years and sentencing him to 2 lifetimes and 40 years. Can you really come out and start a Bitcoin strategic reserve with those?
The
So
answer in my mind is yes. I don't think he cares about perception in the same way we think he cares about it. He made a promise, he delivered on the promise, and there's no promise behind that. I've dealt with guys like Trump before, and you get to a point where you start making assumptions behind the promise that he's made instead of taking it at absolute face value, and you are more disappointed than not because he's moving in a different direction than your primary motive. Bitcoin is not the highest priority on his list. And he's shown that. What have the executive orders all been about? It's been about what he said, like getting rid of the woke type legislation. And that's what he's focused on first. And so Bitcoin, I think the financial piece of this has to include Bitcoin. But the financial piece of it isn't priority one on day one, right? And so do I think the strategic Bitcoin reserve will come? Yes, I do. Do I think it's different than Eric's tweet about the cryptos that they bought, the $47 million worth of wrapped BTC? I don't think those are even remotely the same thing. I saw a lot of people correlating that, like, look, that's a private endeavor to make money. And it's very clear they're betting on ETH catching up at some point based upon those purchases. It's a much bigger deal to sign an executive order that's has a Bitcoin strategic reserve in it, and it's going to take longer than I think maybe people are thinking it's going to take, because even if you sign that, you have to have the people in place to execute. And why wouldn't we be hearing about those nominees? Why wouldn't we be hearing about the people that would be in charge of it, or at least counseling him as kind of the think tank behind it? And we haven't heard that yet. The Larry Fink thing, I mean, Larry Fink would be in that conversation, don't you think? I mean, if you're going to have a strategic Bitcoin reserve, wouldn't we want to diversify beyond just holding it in a cold storage wallet and put some money towards one of the ETFs or all of the ETFs that are? I think there's still going to be some things that need to get done in the next 30 days, but it's imminent. It's within the first 90 days, so who cares?
We're just getting going. Exactly. But like you said at the beginning there, regardless of, even if it didn't happen, that's not going to stop Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin's here, is doing its thing. I think I just saw something about Utah. There was a bill proposed there. I don't know if you guys saw this, to invest public funds in crypto. It's HB 230, and it would allow the state treasurer to invest up to 10% of public funds into digital assets like cryptos, stable coins, NFTs, provided that they meet certain criteria, things like 500 billion market cap over the past 12 months, stuff like that. So, I mean, again, even when we're looking at strategic reserves, and now you've got Utah doing this thing, which, is something, a little bit different, but still in this idea that, hey, we're into crypto. I mean, so when you look at this, and people have been getting really upset, I've seen it all over Twitter. God bless you folks in crypto Twitter, man. Y'all are very impatient. But the idea that it hadn't been executive order for crypto hadn't been done yet, they're like, oh, it's not going to happen. But Freed Ross Ulbricht, his company, he has there is investing heavily in crypto. I just, we've got, we had, what's his name over there at the CEO of Circle,
Mahler.
Jeremy Allaire.
Oh no,
Allaire.
yeah.
And he was on there recently talking about, what he thinks. And, and of course he believes that these crypto executive orders and stuff are coming, here as well. I tried to get the audio to work on the video, but I couldn't do it. So sorry, guys, I can't actually post the video here for us to listen to. But, I think, the people are just being really impatient. I see a lot of this. I think cryptocurrencies they're not going to be the biggest part of his, agenda, as you were pointing out. A lot of it's really the whole woke left kind of DEI, all that stuff, and border security. But it's going to be there. And I think if you're not looking, if you're still looking at the 5-minute charts, you're going to miss the forest for the trees.
Well, I think the biggest alpha question to the entire crypto space is, what does it look like? Because it's essentially picking winners out of the gate, right? And you just read the Utah bill. I haven't read all the bills, but there's similar bills, I think, in like 14 different states, Wyoming being one. And if you look at the campaign dollars in the crypto space and where the most are being spent, what was the first criteria you read? Has to have a market cap of over 500 billion over the last 6 months. There's only one of those. Yeah, 12 months. There's only one of those right now. So the question in my mind has always been, where does the Bitcoin dominance level go? And my belief is that we're going to see it skewed to Bitcoin greatly. And I don't think we're going to have the same alt season that we've seen in the past cycles. That would be my premise going forward, just because of what's happening with guys like Larry Fink on the paper side of Bitcoin, on the stock side of Bitcoin, where you can buy it through your brokerage instead of going through some new broker dealer or some new crypto exchange to get your crypto. Like, those traditional finance guys aren't opening up a Kraken account. They're just going to wait until their broker lets them have access to Bitcoin, which is what ETFs are, right? And so I just think this rising tide of Bitcoin is going to be very hard to slow down, and I think that it's going to pull liquidity from the other projects. I think that's a good thing personally. But
well, speaking of exchange and banks, I know that y'all, especially Andrew, probably keeping up with this, but I know we've seen some recent mentions by some banks that, hey, they want to be holding crypto as long, if the regulations come and say they can do it, they're going to jump on it, right? Didn't we see like
Brian Moynihan at Bank of America again, Davos, made the point that if we get the clearing from regulators, which they're going to get the clearing from regulators, because all those regulators are now pro Bitcoin, pro crypto folks that Trump is installing. That they'll be very comfortable handling Bitcoin and other types of transactions, which is just a soft way of them saying that when this change occurs and we've been given the rules that allow us to do this, we're going to do bank things with it. I had 2 conversations earlier this morning. Well, they're text conversations that, put out a tweet that has to do with, again, doing bank things. Like as soon as these, switches get flipped, you're going to see lending products happen extremely fast, because you don't custody an asset to do nothing with it. you custody an asset to be able to generate some sort of yield off of that asset that you're custodying. And that, there's going to be a flurry and bevy of activity that will occur. And so if it's risen to the point where, the CEO of the Bank of America is comfortable talking about the fact that, there's going to be some wide open spaces from a regulatory standpoint and quote unquote Bitcoin and crypto, it's already, they're ready for it. It's already been, it's already been adjudicated. It's just has pen hit paper that allows them to talk about what they're going to do and how they're going to do it. So, whether it's Bank of America, whether it's JP Morgan or whatever it happens to be, Bank of America, besides JP Morgan, is the biggest retail bank in the country. And so, they're going to be ready to move on this stuff. And
But
again,
it's interesting that you're bringing up the services side of it, Andrew, because I listened to that interview probably 3 or 4 times to try to pick up on any little cues that he was giving, and he looked when he was asked if they were going to put it on their balance sheet, he kind of fumbled that question and didn't know how to respond, in the fact that it didn't sound like a firm commitment. But what he did respond with big eyes and in kind of immediate exuberance was, we're going to, if people want to pay in crypto, our credit cards will allow them to do that. And so they're basically, I think, the Winklevoss twins have proven themselves to be leaders in this space, have gone through the most difficult regulatory, scrutiny, being based in New York, that exists for a crypto exchange. And what did they just launch through Gemini? A credit card that lets you pay with crypto and gives you rewards and cash back in crypto. I think that's the lowest hanging fruit for these banks. I think they're going to be quick to adopt that. And I think you're right. By definition, they're going to find themselves being holders of all these coins, and because of the transactions that are going through and them essentially having to hold it to pay out the rewards against those credit card transactions. If they're holding it, then the loan products, then in my mind, come shortly thereafter. And so I think the first cue that we can all look for in the banks is do they offer a way for retail to pay with their crypto? And if they do, what are they going to need in order to make that happen without them putting it on their balance sheet? Crypto deposits, which then will be right behind it. And why do they want crypto deposits? For the crypto loan value. So I think we're right there in the 1-2 step, 1-2 punch type range to have a knockout with the banks for sure.
Well, I think some of the bigger stuff, I think as participants in this market that we're looking at, maybe for Trump to do, things about capital gains, tax relief, stuff like that. I mean, when we look at it, we go, okay, well, because there isn't any clarification on exactly what crypto is in terms of, securities, commodities, all this kind of stuff, right? So because of that, the IRS can come up and say, okay, well, for tax purposes, it's property, and we'll tax you this way. The easy way through that, I say the easy way, is for Congress to come up and just pass a law that says this is what crypto is and this is how you have to treat it. So far, Congress has sidestepped, has not done that. So anything that maybe I think that Trump can do here to at least give some kind of guide, some kind of lead to get these other agencies, because we know he's all about, breaking down this administrative state, and so anything that he can do there, I think, benefits us, if not anything for clarity, right?
Well, it's the same malarkey that was going on in the cannabis space for a long time, and probably still is, where you had states that had legalized it. People were making money on it, yet they couldn't deposit the money in banks because the banks are federally regulated. I mean, but the IRS is taxing your gains on the sales. So you're kind of going like the IRS is able to tax my gains, but the banks can't bank me. And that went on for a very, very long time. And I don't know where the clarity is on it now, but living in Colorado, it was all over the news for years. And I will tell you, I think the same type of, if you look at the law, you can't build a swimming pool in your backyard in a neighborhood and not put a fence around it, because it creates what they call an attractive nuisance,
Yeah.
where you're almost asking for an accident to happen. Our tax code is like that. You have no idea. Like, you have to have an accountant that's keeping up with every iteration every year, because gap changes those. I mean, for example, if I don't know where it is now, but the estate tax used to escalate and de-escalate by 10% every year. So if you died on January 1st, you got a better tax rate than if you died on December 31st.
Got to play in your death, man.
And you're just kind of going like, do we need that extra layer of complication in the tax code? And so I think, common sense is going to come back to a lot of these, kind of departments, and make it simple to where everyone who knows, they kind of know what they're supposed to do. And that makes enforcement a lot more legit, right? Because
Yeah.
if everybody kind of knows what they're supposed to do and you're not doing it, then everybody can kind of agree like, hey, there should be a punishment there. They should pay fees or whatever. But when it's so ambiguous, except to the professionals, and even they don't have all the answers, simplification is the answer, right? It just flat tax. I don't know what the answer is. If it was in my simple mind, it would be a sales tax that goes on everything that you buy except for groceries. And that would really help the lower class, because groceries are a larger portion of their disposable income than, anything else. And at the same time, it would really tax the people who wanted to buy $1 billion yacht. And that's kind of what everybody talks about, but there's no real clear mechanism that is that's able to capture that. But it's got to become more simple, and I have high hopes that it probably will.
Yeah. Yeah. For those that haven't been paying attention, Gensler's out. He left. Na 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 na. Hey, hey, hey. Okay. So anyway, I know most of us are probably pretty happy about that. Actually, I had somebody reply when I posted that on Twitter. They replied that they thought Gensler was doing a great job, and look at what happened since he's gone. Trump launched a meme coin. Look at what happened, and I can't do it. I can't do it.
So, Trump made 3 promises, quote unquote, at the Bitcoin conference, that Gensler would be out, he'd free Ross, and there'd be a, Bitcoin strategic reserve. So he's only got one left, right? And then everybody can just shut up.
When is CT ever going to shut up? Come on.
Yeah, that's naive, Andrew. Nobody's shutting up.
But it's the fact that Gensler's gone is a huge deal. The fact that they've created a let's call it a crypto council with Hester Peirce and some other dude that's pro crypto inside the SEC. The head of the SEC, the acting head of the SEC right now is pro Bitcoin, pro crypto. So they're at the business of creating new pro regulatory rails that are going to be friendly to the industry, right? Oh, by the way, there was news today that current action against Tornado Cash had been stopped and been reversed. So all of these things are literally happening inside of 72 hours, folks. 72 hours. And so, we should be extraordinarily happy and excited. And, we now have, the alpha asset of Bitcoin in a trading range between 102 and 107 currently. Okay. not a bad place to be, if you ask me.
Yeah, not at all. I think it's so silly to, again, we're still hearing the nonsense about Bitcoin can't hold 100,000. I mean, we're sitting above it now, and it's the same yeah nonsense that we've been hearing for weeks now, as it's just been kind of oscillating through it, right? Even the other day, we hit another, a new all-time high there, just about 109,000 before the current pullback we've got right now. Let's face it, folks. Say what you want, be as scared as you want, emotionally as you want, but reality of it is we've got higher highs and higher lows, and we continue to have higher highs and higher lows right now. Yeah. I made a point that even if Bitcoin were to dip to 80,000, I would not be concerned at all. That's this year's monthly pivot. So, we've moved in sideways between the pivot and the R1 pivot, the first resistance pivot. And so even a pullback there, that's something that often will happen. Not that it has to happen here, but it does often happen. And I would just look for a potential reversal there. I mean, so this idea that we've moved, and we've talked about this so many times before. We're not getting these huge pullbacks that those of us that have been in for years are used to, right? We're not getting.
I would be shocked if we hit the 80s again. I really would be. I'd be shocked. I don't. It could happen, but price discovery to me, when you're in price discovery mode, which we are, it breaks all the rules of support and resistance, because there is no the resistance is just the pockets of liquidity that have to be eaten through, and how long they have to be chewed through in order to get through. And 110, there's a pretty good chunk of liquidity there, and so we're gonna hit it, I think, several times, grind on it, and when all of those sellers are chewed up, where there's a lot of blue sky, like up to 135 in my estimate. And so it only takes one big announcement to push through that 110 mark, and then you're off to the races. But if Larry Fink is saying the type of stuff he's saying, again, think about that. That's a 7x from here. That's unprecedented in terms of a prediction. Like, no one says that about any asset class on the face of the earth other than Bitcoin. Well, gold could 7x in the next 4 years.
Well, when was the last time that Larry Fink made a stock price prediction?
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Ever? I've never heard him make one. And now he's making predictions associated with. I mean, the guy is literally walking around talking his bag, right? He's talking his book in Wall Street language. And that's just unprecedented. So,
well, I think he thinks it could be the greatest concentration of wealth holdings that are on the face of the earth. Like, think about the other ETFs that he could have as their kind of banter ETF. What other ETF could you put in that spotlight that could gather and garner the world's attention like Bitcoin? None. I don't think there is one. There is no product that you can have access to. You have restrictions to buy specific stocks based upon where you live geographically. And he's looking at this world market and going, there's so much demand here in the US for it. If we can see that demand replicated across the globe, and they have access to Bitcoin in some way, the price of Bitcoin could go to a place where the holdings that they have are make them triple, quadruple their value. Think about that.
Mm-hmm.
You got an $18 trillion coffer, and you're used to trying to just barely squeak by above inflation at 10, 12, 15% returns, and you have the potential to quadruple your base value. I mean, it's crazy. It's what Trump did with Trump token in 3 days.
Well, and we can even look at again, we often talk about MicroStrategy here because it gives us stuff to talk about, right? I mean, there was this talk as we got toward the end of December where he was just buying weekly, right, every weekend. And then people are like, oh, look, he's running out of steam. His purchases are less and less. And then he pops back up with a 200 and somewhat million. And then this last weekend, 1.1 billion. And then the shareholders voted, right, for a 30 times increase to the number of authorized Class A common shares. So that jumped up to something like from 330 million to 10.3 billion.
Well, you've got GameStop type following, right? You've got the virality of GameStop, the GameStop play, and you know, Kitty. But you also have someone at the helm that has a lot more levers and mechanisms to pull and push to make it a reality. You've got a guy that is a seasoned genius at the helm. This could be a wild thing to watch. I mean, I honestly think if it continues to go the way that it is, it's going to be looked at as a monopoly at some point, and there's going to be some rules imposed upon old Sailor Boy. But listen, that's just this administration may not believe in that, so you never know with what could happen. Honestly,
Well, it goes to, and I brought this up earlier this week, between the Trump token, MicroStrategy, and the fact that, and people don't realize this, so it's important that we talk about it here on this podcast. The most used / the most volume of any ETF last year in 2024 was 2x NVIDIA, right?
Yeah.
So a 2x NVIDIA ETF, in other words, a levered long NVIDIA ETF. So the gamification of markets, that ship has sailed. That already happens. That is the way that markets work now, is the gamification of markets. So the search for alpha, whether you're an institution, whether you're a corporation, or whether you're a retail investor, you better be looking for a gamified play to be able to outperform just your buy and hold type of stuff associated with markets, because that's the only way you're going to get alpha, because that's how markets play themselves now.
Well, I think that it used to always, I mean, it's been doing that for a long time, like credit swaps, right? That was gamification of the markets, but most people didn't get access to it. I think the difference now is like everybody on the street corner. I was, talking to some people at my son's hockey game, and it's amazing how many people are talking about this space, and they're believing things that are just wild alpha, like pie in the sky alpha, especially XRP holders. When I talk to them, it's like the coin's going to 10,000. It's going to International Monetary Fund has already adopted it as its base currency, and it's going to be included in the Fed basket, like all these things. And it's interesting. It's a case study, right? Because I will say that's probably that type of loyalty and that type of buy-in has lent itself to the pump that we've seen, right? But it also lends itself to a pretty bad crash on the back end, because everybody's holding and holding and holding and holding while somebody is dumping into them, essentially. And then they get to the puke up phase, and that's when things accelerate, and the fear goes from no fear at all to panic really quickly, and you see very volatile markets when that takes place. I think the thing that we're seeing with Bitcoin that's different is that I don't think anybody's going to panic regardless of price at this point. I think there's too many things on the horizon. To your point, if it goes to 80, how many buyers is that bringing in versus sellers? I don't think there's going to be a lot of people panic selling at that point. I think there'll be a lot of people that are greedy and going on. And
the base layer of Bitcoin price now are the ETFs, and those people are not traders. They hold the asset. They buy and hold the asset, and they add to the asset when they see it on sale, because they're seasoned investors. And so that's now the base. That is the principal reason why we haven't got a meaningful drawdown more than 22-ish% or whatever the number is. When before, at this time in the last cycle, we were down at minimum 45, closer to 55%. So it's a different game at this point. And being aware of what that game is, and being able to take advantage of it, right? It's the question of forget about what your what you believe or what your feelings are about a Trump meme coin, it's no different than what your feelings are about the fact that Shiba Inu is worth $12 billion. Okay? That does not make any sense of any kind anywhere in the world of finance, but it's a reality, right? So how do you generate alpha on your behalf associated with the reality of the markets versus how you feel about, you know, the legalities, the ethics, the morale? That's not what this game is about.
I
What
would totally
exists,
agree.
what exists is it exists for a reason because it's allowed to exist. So how do you extract alpha based on the reality on the ground? And you know, my point with Jeff Park's point is like, if you think that the initial run up on Trump coin is the only run up that's going to happen, you're going to get left behind. It will happen again.
Well, and I'll even go further and say there will be more Trump coins from non-legitimate brands and legitimate brands. Because why? Because it's really solving a need. I'll give you an example of one that I posted this week. Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast raises all of his revenue through sponsorships, advertisements, and YouTube revenue. Does that compete with him launching a token where you can buy all of his merch with the token? No, it does not compete. That will extract more liquidity into his pocket in a shorter period of time than any amount of revenue and any sponsorship work he could do. Because going and lining up sponsors is paperwork. It's literally like you're spending man hours at scale to do that. That's a very heavy lift to continue on for years and decades. That's why shows shut down. People always ask, well, why didn't Seinfeld go on another 10 years? Because they were tired of it. It's hard work. And so if you can remove work from the process and raise more money for your cause, it's inevitable that that will happen. And so if Mr. Beast launched a token, right? What would all the 13 to 18-year-old kids be buying? His token. And they don't care where the price would go. They'd be wanting it to go to $100 trillion market cap just to say, look what we did. And that's what the crazy gamification that Andrew's talking about is. So if you look at the biggest alpha, I'd be looking beyond Trump as who's the next major brand to try to have the cash grab that Trump proved is possible. You know, how else are you going to raise $30 billion in 3 days? I don't know of another mechanism that allows you to do that. And if you have real world followers that will act on that, it's almost too good of an opportunity to pass up. Like you could, what could Mr. Beast take his entertainment value from and to
Oh, he must be getting
10x if he had 10x or 100x the capital to work with? You see what I'm saying? Or 1,000x the capital to work with.
Yeah, and let's, you know, and I know we're talking about the cryptos, we're talking whatever, but you know, the same thing, guys. We've been doing this 31 episodes. We've done this now. I mean, it's crazy to think about it, right? We started this beginning of last summer, the Beards and Bitcoin podcast here, and the one thing we've been talking about is this increase in companies buying Bitcoin, right? Especially leading into, you know, this year, get the FASB, you know, rule change there, so they have they can hold on their, you know, not be basically knocked for holding it on their books, right? And so we got Rumble. We had the CEO of Rumble, Chris Pavlovsky. What was it? Yesterday? No, 2 days ago, the 20th, mentioned that Rumble made its first ever purchase of Bitcoin, and then with that tweet, he said it won't be the last. So they're jumping in there doing that. There's a cannabis company, an over-the-counter cannabis company. And as full disclosure here, I'm actually looking to buy into it on this pullback here. But just to kind of let you guys know, if you're interested in companies that are you know, looking at holding into, you know, buying Bitcoin to hold on their balance sheets, this one's Leaf, LEEF. Check them out if they align with something you're interested in, and if part of what you're interested in is you like to support companies that support Bitcoin by holding it on their, you know, their balance sheet, and you see the benefit to the company that we've been talking about for 6 months now by holding Bitcoin on their thing. it behooves you if you're into stocks to look for stuff like that. It doesn't just have to be the ETFs, but again, let's face it, the ETFs make it easy. Many of you guys who are in here have been around, crypto and Bitcoin for a few years like we have. You're used to the wallets. Doesn't mean we're not scared ever to send, a little bit of something somewhere through the wallet addresses and, screw it up. But we're used to it, right? People coming in just today, people that are just hearing about this and trying to get involved, they have no clue what they're doing.
For the last 4 or 5 days, 5 or 6 days now, the most popular free app on the App Store is Moonshot, which launched the Trump token and the Melania token. And the reason why it's been so popular is because it's onboarding people, and how it's easy to onboard because you can buy the meme tokens through Apple Pay. So if you want to buy $1,000 worth of Trump, you just click on your app, double click on the side of your phone, and you just bought $1,000, right? So, there's your innovation. And by the way, all this innovation, so meme token gambling is really what it is. Does anybody remember what the literal initial use case for Bitcoin way back when, 2012 and 2013? You remember who were really using it way back then? Anybody remember the first people that used it more than anybody else?
No.
It was poker players, online poker players and gamblers. That was the first place it found lots of movement and real world adoptions. The first place it actually happened.
Well, carrying cash at the table, dangerous. It solves a lot of real world problems in playing poker. Trustless transactions.
Yeah. So, meme coins are a zero-sum game financially, right? But that doesn't mean that it can't still be, quote unquote, a game of skill where there are winners and there are losers. That's the nature of it. So is poker, right? So is poker. So is poker's literal zero-sum game type of entity. So in the real world and in traditional markets, right, a place like Renaissance Tech doesn't care what a company does. They've never cared what a company does, what their values are, what they produce, what their quarterly returns are. They don't care about any of it. All they care about and have for 45 years is extracting half a penny out of any possible trade as the trade is moving from one place to another, and extracting that out of that particular trade and making money that way. Again,
it'd be no different than like finding, when the PlayStation 5s come out every Christmas or the new iteration, right? It'd be like finding a parking lot where you see a bunch of people racing into the store and forming a big line. You don't need to know what you're buying. Just get in line. There's a lot of people that want it, and you may be able to sell it to the guy behind you because you're the last one that got it. And, it's a big game of musical chairs, and the more people you see starting to play it, lets you know that the stakes and the liquidity inside of that circle of chairs has potential life-changing outcomes for you.
There are some of the largest companies in traditional finance. This is at what Tillman just described, order flow. This is their entire business model. Yeah. Citadel Securities has become a multi-billion-dollar company and entity, and a huge controller of the levers and pulleys and pipes in the markets by doing just that, by being the thing where people rush to a certain entry point and exit point, and they control the entry and exit, right? Virtu Financial does the same thing as well. So, in traditional, that's why I did everything I could not to jump on Twitter and tell people how stupid they were complaining about the Trump meme coin, right? And I didn't do that because I knew all this stuff already exists in traditional markets, right? Yeah. If you don't like meme coins, then I guess you should be railing just as hard against OTC pink sheets, and that particular market that exists in traditional finance and still exists to this day.
Yep. Or if you don't want it, go ahead. Sorry.
You can go buy penny stocks, pink sheets, and hope for the best, and you may get lucky, but there's no liquidity there. Oh, there's no liquidity with meme coins. Yes, there's no liquidity with pink sheets either that exists and are legal in traditional markets. So,
Or on the
Same,
other side of the coin, if you don't want to buy Bitcoin because you don't understand it, then you shouldn't be buying Nvidia because you don't understand that either.
right.
And you don't understand Tesla, and you don't understand any of the other EV stocks, including the ones that have been total frauds, like the semi truck one that went public, and they found
Nikola,
out that
yeah.
they were, Nikola, and they were coasting down the hill, claiming that the semi truck was operating on electric, charge. And
Yeah.
to Andrew's point, none of this is new. It's just the same casino, but they've called the games a little bit different
Yep.
names. It's the
Well,
same thing.
here's the difference, though, and here's in my mind the positive difference. The previous casino is a shadowy world that most people don't have, an opportunity to be involved with. This casino now, you can play. You can come and play. There's no age limit. There's no dollar limit. Come on in, no holds barred. You can do what you want. Download Moonshot, buy $1,000 of something stupid, and if it goes up, you get the benefit. Right? Again, a reminder that here's a great point that I've forgotten to make this week. Does anyone remember the launch of Facebook's IPO and the first day that it launched? Do you guys remember what happened to the price of Facebook? It launched at like $35. Did you watch the price action? And remember the scandal that happened a few days later. Morgan Stanley would not let it go under $35.
Yep.
It was literally artificially pumped up at that $35 mark. Morgan Stanley would not let it go under 35 bucks. And that's the point, is those markets are archaic markets now. And we're in markets where you have the option as a 22-year-old dude who just made $742 on his paycheck. I want to put 50 bucks into Trump coin and I want to make, $250 on it. And there were
Let's go back.
that happened with over the weekend. Why is that bad?
Well, go back to the casino analogy. In the past, the shadowy casino that we all had to play in was controlled. It was centralized. It was controlled by the entity, the casino. And anyone who set up a table game on the floor had to abide by the overall rules. Now it's like games that are 6-5 blackjack tables. If people don't like it, I can prop up my own table in the casino and make it 3-2 and attract new buyers that don't want to play 6-5, that want to play 3-2 because I'm more attractive. The crypto space is allowing not only access to participate, but access to redefine the rules and to create the rules as it relates to what yield. Like, think about what the crypto space has looked like over the last 7 or 8 years chasing yield, where you're getting 40% APR on your staked tokens. Like, where has that existed in the other casino? It didn't exist because they were all in collusion with one another as to the max yield that they would give out.
And the only way that you got access, by the way, to Facebook as an IPO is if you were one of the best customers at Morgan Stanley.
Correct.
You were selected by Morgan Stanley to get an allocation of shares so that you could benefit when it went up by 200%. That world is gone now. That world is, if you want to buy $150 via Apple Pay of Trump coin on Moonpot or whatever it was called, you get to do that. You get the democratization of it,
And if you look at, like, I was pretty upset when I woke up the next morning and saw the Trump coin. Knee-jerk reaction, I'll be the first to admit it. But I was up. My biggest beef then was later really quelched, because what I was kind of upset about is that crypto ball happened that the night that he launched the coin, and I was thinking, if you bought the $100,000 VIP ticket, then you heard the announcement first. That's not what happened. It was not mentioned at the crypto ball. He mentioned it on Twitter, and it goes to what he kind of believes in, which is like, if you follow me if I'm the guy that you're waiting with bated breath on my next word, I'm going to take care of you. And guess what? Those are rules he got to define. And it's what we're talking about. Like, you get to define your rules essentially as it pertains to how you are launching these and how you're participating. And that is going to spark innovation. It will spark a lot of bad innovation, but the market's great at sorting out bad from good. Like, let the chips fall where they may. What do we have to be scared of? I don't know why Bitcoiners raise their hands up and try to defend Bitcoin. You don't need to defend it. It defends itself. Like, let the numbers speak for themselves. It's the only one that's survived on the constant path that it's been on for 16 years.
You had the opportunity to have IPO shares, quote unquote, of Bitcoin and get it for years and years and years and years and not have to be selected. You have front run Wall Street, let's call it, for 14 and a half years, and you had the opportunity to do so and get pre-IPO shares because, oh, by the way, Bitcoin in 2018 was $3,200. Bitcoin in 2022 was $13,800, right? So you had the opportunity to do that. You didn't have to get anybody's permission. You didn't have to be selected. You didn't have to be an accredited investor to get into the Series A, B, C, or D round of Bitcoin. That's the whole point of all of this and the democratization of it. Has anybody noticed what the IPO markets have looked like over the past 5 years? They haven't. They don't exist, right? Yeah. Because there's just a sea change that's underway. And why are the likes of Larry Fink and BlackRock and Citadel talking about real world tokenization markets and creating those? Because they know that business is never coming back. The IPO business is never coming back. We've got to find another way to make money and a faster way to make money. And then again, to be able to control some of these pipes because they're getting away from us.
And that's why I think if you talk about every crypto, you have to delineate the differences between each one of them. And there is one characteristic to Bitcoin that Andrew just spoke about that no other coin on the earth can claim: fair and equitable distribution. The white paper of Bitcoin was published a month before the first coin, the Genesis block, was mined. So you could have beat Satoshi to the punch and started mining Bitcoin before him. There are only 3 people in the world that hold Bitcoin: somebody who bought it, you get the price you deserve; someone who mined it, you get the price you deserve; someone who stole it. So those are the only 3 options. Anyone, if you look at any other coin, Ethereum, Solana, all of them, pre-allocation. There was an IPO and you had to know somebody to know somebody. And that's not what happened with Bitcoin. And so I think, if you understand that, you understand the value that has as just a shining star like that. And I don't think we'll ever get it again, because the proof of work, the amount of power, I don't think we could get away with starting another one that was using that much. But the bloom is off the rose on that. We don't even have to use the traditional rails anymore. The Bitcoin that exists today could be every Bitcoin that ever existed, and it'd be great for the market that we're trying to create and all of the derivatives behind it.
Well, I think that's a great place. We're getting to the end here, but we cannot close this show out with go ahead and, we've got to, as much as it may burn our hands to do so, we're going to have to pat Tillman on the back. If y'all paid attention last week, he mentioned that on Sundays, you're getting the Bitcoin dump and you're buying it on Mondays. Here we are again, another weekend, same thing happening. If you were paying attention, you might have made some money, hopefully. But good job, Tillman. I mean, he even had his pad of paper that he was writing on, remember? And he was referencing it. I mean, the dude was like all professional right then. So
that was listen, Sunday's it's the easiest path of least resistance. Capital likes to flow like a river. If there's a rock in front of it, it goes around the rock. Sunday, there is no rock in the river. It's path of least resistance.
There you go. Well, man, as always, really appreciate you guys joining in. Enjoyed this a lot. Hopefully everybody else did as well. Looks like we've got a new record for live viewership. We're right around 1,800 people Thank you so much
Nice.
for joining in, guys, and listening in and viewing and leaving comments and asking questions and all that fun stuff. We'll be back next Wednesday, 11 a.m. Central, 12 p.m. Eastern. I simulcast on X, YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Instagram. I've got that figured out now because there's a few extra steps you got to go in to do that. No, I'm not on everybody's favorite TikTok as far as streaming this goes, but it is what it is. But anyway, hey, listen, guys, as always, if you've got questions, for the next show or whatever, leave it here. The easiest way to probably do it would be leave it under the video on X. So x.com/TXWest Capital. That's my accounts where we post it. Leave your comments under the video there or leave them on YouTube here. Those are the two easiest places for me to find them. And we'd love to understand more about what you're interested in hearing when it comes to Bitcoin. Questions you may have, stuff like that, because, again, we do have many decades of very varied experience, TradFi markets, mining, finance, economics, trading, all this stuff. And so, our goal here is to, help you guys think beyond the simple things and, maybe at the same time, give you a little entertainment. So, as always, a good time. Thank you all for joining in. Andrew, Tillman, I appreciate you guys showing up as always.
Always fun.
Yeah. So we'll do that. By the way, guys, I'll be on Friday. I've got my market analysis on Friday, and I think I'm going to have Juan Leon from Bitwise over there talking in this Friday, trying to get that done. So he's a lot of fun. He's a good guy, a lot of good information over there. So be sure you join in on that. That said,
we have to say that this is not the Ohio State team is not the greatest football team that's ever played. I mean, come on, people are nuts. It's crazy.
Everybody's got to get in on it when they can get in on it.
They didn't win their conference. They didn't go to the conference
Michigan
championship game. They lost to their rival. They lost 2 games. Bite me.
And there it is, guys. You heard it from the guys here. As always, guys, remember, the only thing that you control is how much you lose. That's it in the markets, guys. That's absolutely it. So check out archpublic.com. Check out TexasWestCapital.com. We'd all love for you guys to come be a part of what we do. Even if you don't, make sure you come back next week on Wednesday. Follow us on Twitter, X, and we'll see you guys next week, all right? Take care, everybody.